Boom, and we're live right now. I love that 3, 2, 1. Did you see that on your end too? It kind of
I
gives like that
did.
crescendo like vibe.
Technology.
Yeah, I know, right? And that's what we're here to talk about on episode 71 of Open House. I'm right here with the legendary Zandra. She had a little bit of Val. Yeah. So really, like all that we're here to do today is take on some questions about our back-end boot camp that's coming to a close for our early bird discount on Monday morning, or on Monday just in general. And so we really wanted to set up some time to be able to talk more about the back end boot camp, all the things that kind
Mhm.
of fall underneath the umbrella of what that back end boot camp is. Python, SQL, DevOps, open that up for discussion, especially for career questions too. Zandra has some
Yep.
expertise about that. So from the start line all the way to what it looks like on the finish line too, we're here to answer all of your questions about that. But
Mhm.
personally and kind of selfishly, Zandra, I am very excited to be able to just talk with you again. It's been a while since you and I have talked and gotten some time to be able to just riff off of each other. So thank you for being here today.
Oh no, thanks so much, and thanks for the glowing intro. You're definitely no slouch yourself. I know you got them developer chops, so
Yeah, it's been
props
a
to
while.
you
I gotta
too.
dust off the
Yeah.
keys again, right?
Mhm.
Like, but yeah, that
Yeah.
intro, like, you would have thought we were on Jimmy Fallon or something like that. So we're working up there. We'll
Oh
be the
no,
new
no
talk
pressure, no
show.
pressure.
Yeah, we'll be the talk show
Mhm.
guest and host of the tech world. That's what we'll do.
Mm.
So, but
I'm
yeah,
glad you mentioned about the back end though, and the deadline and everything. Everybody knows the eclipse is coming up Monday, but also that
I
that
had no
means
clue.
the cutoff for that early bird back end is coming up,
As soon
and
as the moon meets the sun and everything, like, boom, that's
yeah,
when the
yeah, that's
deadline.
it. The coupon is gone at that point.
Yeah. That would be hilarious, actually.
Mhm.
But yeah, so once again, like really, these types of meetings are super laid back. They're supposed to be more chill. They're actually tailored to be more for the viewing audience. If you guys have any questions, regardless of your background, being if you've gone through New Camp, you're thinking about New Camp, if you want to get into tech, don't know where to begin with it, or maybe you've been in tech and you want to brush up on some skills, ask us a question. We're here to open it up for live discussion all the way through. But I think something that would be really interesting to talk about, like just to kick things off, is Zandra. I'm kind of curious, like, just real quick about your personal story about you know the development sphere, how you got more into. I guess you're a career coach as well. Like, how'd you find yourself coming across with tech in general?
Well, it's not such a complicated story, honestly. I moved to a very expensive location with my husband in support of my husband's job. So we moved to Hawaii, and I had been like an English major in college, which was completely, it was fun. It was a fun way to blow 30 G's. Um, but
Oh, wow. Yeah.
was not gonna support me in our new home. So I was actually cleaning houses. I was like applying everywhere. I was applying at like coffee shops. I could not find the communications manager kind of role that I had had in New York. And I just was on YouTube one day and I saw this learn Python a commercial for Udemy. So I was like, my dad was telling me about that a while back, so maybe I should take a look. And fast forward, I became a developer. I started freelancing, and then eventually I got my first kind of quote unquote real development job. Um, yeah, and I got to teach at Nucamp, so that was super awesome. And
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's short and sweet of it.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you for sharing that because it's not even something really I knew about. And so, like, I love getting to hear more about that. And you probably get to talk to people. Well, I mean, I know you get to talk to people all the time about getting them
Mhm.
across the finish line. And, one thing I get to do is talk to people every day about the starting line too. So it's really kind of unique. Like, as someone
Mhm.
who shepherds people into the right direction, and then you also do the same by like, hey, fly out of the nest. You're here to tackle on the world now. And so, I guess like with that said, from my perception of the beginning phase to the
Hmm.
end with backend, it starts
Hmm.
off with Python. And Python has been like
Yes.
super big lately and just it's always been big, right? But I would say right now more than ever, it's probably the most high in demand backend language. Is that something you I
Yep.
guess you could agree with, like that you've
I
seen
think
too?
with all the hype about machine learning and AI, I mean, it's been going on for like 10, 15, 20 years, but now it's kind of blown into the collective consciousness, like commercial, and people are using it, end users using it. So now everybody knows about AI, and Python is a huge portion of that. And
Yeah.
so many packages that are involved in the development are based in Python. So if you know Python, it can only be an asset in my opinion. And I'm a little biased because that was the first language that I got into and enjoyed.
I find that
And
a lot, right? First
mhm,
language being Python because it's so approachable too. Like the syntax and everything, the visual
yeah,
representation of what you're
hmm,
learning,
you don't have to worry
super
about semicolons. Okay, well, you do have to worry about indentation, but
maybe a space or two, like to
yeah,
throw you
yeah.
off. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
But typing
Hmm.
out hello world is definitely the easiest thing on there for backend languages, I feel like. So
Yes, and you don't have to, compile it or anything like that. You can just run it, and it's a lot. It's really approachable. And in the backend bootcamp, you start out with that basic Python, which is, super nice, and then it escalates quickly.
well,
But
it's kind of like chess, right? Like, I mean, like with I'm a huge chess nerd, so you'll hear me do
okay,
periodic like
okay.
analogy to chess. I like chess, so but with that, it's like it's really easy to go from bad to decent at chess. Same thing with
Mm,
Python, same thing with SQL, in my opinion. And it's really difficult to go from decent to good. And then it gets even more difficult to go from good to great, right? So it's
mm-hmm.
like, it's very approachable at that starting level. And then once you get up to that decent slash good, it's like, okay, I see the potential here. Kind of what you were
Yes.
mentioning too with like AI. And I'm so curious. I'm actually really curious to know your thoughts on that. As someone in your position who helps people get into jobs, I hear every single day about how it's taking over the world, and like, should I even get into this? So, is that something that you run into a lot?
I have people talking to me about that, and like I see, you see on X, or formerly known as Twitter, or you see on LinkedIn or YouTubers, and they're like, AI is going to take all our jobs, and AI is taking over. So a lot of that is just hype. First of all, nobody knows what's going to happen, and second of all, even if you have a kind of pundit idea and you can kind of see where you believe things are going,
Yeah,
you should still, take it with a grain of salt and just realize that all throughout history, those changes have happened. I like to use the example of the automobile being a huge shift, right? From horses drawn carriages and stuff. And, the blacksmith who was in the shop, making the horseshoes with the
right.
steel. He didn't just get out of a job in one day. He just started making rims for cars or car parts. He's still doing
Didn't
that.
even think
So
about that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and if AI is taking a lot of jobs, we're pretty much all screwed at the same time. If you have AI is taking your secretary's job and the flight attendant, the you know the travel bookings jobs and all those kinds of developer jobs. If it is, then everyone's all pretty much in a world of trouble all at the same time. So I wouldn't freak out over it.
no, I'm kind of in the same boat, and it looks like we got our first comment in here. It says,
Oh,
"Hey,
some
just got
some.
in." Yeah, hey, just got in. Hope I didn't miss out on too much. Actually, we've been waiting on you. So, no, I'm playing with you. Man, the party's just begun now that you're here.
Yes.
So, ask some questions. Really, we're talking about AI. We're mainly talking about the back end bootcamp that we offer, that the early bird discount and the cutoff date ends over this weekend. It ends on Monday. So we're talking about everything that kind of falls underneath the umbrella of the back end bootcamp and some different career opportunities that kind of fall within that. Right now, we're talking about Python, more specifically about how AI ties into that. And I kind of want to riff off of something that you just mentioned about the analogy with the horseshoe maker and like the horses and the cars and that whole
Mm-hmm.
revolution that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's just innovation, right? It's just, that's been something I've been talking about a lot with my buddies is, right now with innovation and how technology moves, it's a lot more forgiving now than it was, hundreds or even just a couple decades ago, where
Mm.
if you didn't keep up with the times, then maybe if that was like 500 years ago, then you might not make it, like just in general. But now it's more forgiving in the sense of like, if you don't keep up with the times, like there is some cushion there. But within that technology being like AI, I think of it more like I saw this analogy on Reddit of all places, right? With a washer machine. AI is kind of like a washer machine, and coding is just doing the performance of laundry. One single washing machine optimizes that process, but it doesn't take away how to get those clothes, where to put in those clothes, transitioning them out of that washer machine into the dryer, right? It's really effective of washing it. It's really effective of, being able to process all of that together like AI is. It's a great
Mm-hmm.
tool, but it's not there to take over the performance of the overall thing that you're using it for, which is laundry in general, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I really like that analogy there too, because it gives, hope springs eternal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this whole wave, it's not Skynet. It's not going to take over everyone overnight. Watch it do that tonight, knock on wood. That would be wild. But like
Dude,
Terminators just start coming out of the woodwork.
we're
But
sorry,
it's,
Skynet.
I
No.
know, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
I think and it's like there's always going to be different use cases too, right? So like there's the person who always like the rich people or whatever, they're always going to pay to have their laundry sent out. They're never going to be doing their own laundry.
oh,
Or
yeah.
there's always like the laundryman, the person who works just doing laundry, like the person who does laundry all day long for a living. They're optimized, their workflow is optimized so they can, do more laundry in one day or the soap makers or whatever is all there's this people making more money on one side and people you know having even more need now they need a washer repair person. They never needed that before. It was all just like soap and a board. So there's
Yeah.
more jobs coming from someplace that we don't even see yet.
The tech industry as a whole, and this isn't Dean from Nucamp, this isn't Zandra from Nucamp saying this. This is the Department of Labor who's actually saying this. That the job growth rate for the tech industry is compounding. It's going up and up and up and up and up year over year, right? So, a lot of the fear mongering, like you mentioned, on YouTube, on Reddit, on LinkedIn, will say AI is taking over, but that's kind of fueling the algorithm, right, for
Exactly, yeah.
clicks and interaction. It's like,
Hmm.
but all of that to say, Chat GPT is really what's thrown that on the map, right? And kind of made it more mainstream, even though it was around for a little bit and just blew up
Hmm.
overnight, it seemed like, especially like this past year. And I actually
Hmm.
saw something really cool that one of our students did, that I want to share with you real quick. Let me see if I can do this for you real
Hmm.
fast. One of our students actually made something from the back end boot camp that I want to share with you guys. And so
Okay,
let me go
lay it on
ahead.
us, Dean.
Yeah, let's do it. So you can see all of these different types of projects from our website. If you actually go to nucamp.co and then you scroll all the way up under job outcomes and graduate projects, you can see specifically different um, things that people have made from different boot camps. It ranges from full stack to back end, front end as well. The whole topic of today is talking about back end. And since we're on the subject of AI, I really wanted to share this that Sean
Hello, everyone. My name is
here,
Sean Offenbacher.
Offenbacher, I wanted him to say it, not me, because I didn't want to butcher his last name, but he actually made a Chat GPT model.
Is I mean, I love that. The agent debate, I'm excited to go deeper into this. And
I'm honestly going to mute it just because it's my first time sharing it on a live stream. I don't know how the audio is going to come through. But essentially, what he's doing right now is putting it up for a debate between two different agents or two different AI models to discuss if love is real or love is not real, which is kind of funny, right? And then it spits out this whole entire prompt going through saying, hey, ladies and gentlemen, today we're sharing this, this, and this, right? This is something that one of our graduates made at the end of the back-end boot camp. I just find it very, very fascinating that even in times where people are so fixated on, is AI going to take over everything, right? Here comes a student who actually comes through and builds this thing to make his own AI. And I just, this is obviously someone who gets the idea of innovating with the times. So I just find this really, really fascinating. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here and jump back into here. Zandra, what'd you think
That's for
about?
sure.
Yeah, what'd you think about that?
That was really nice, and exactly what you said. So, the AI engine that another company built can be brought into one of your apps or one of your projects, or even a product that a student could potentially launch, and can be used. So it's actually creating more innovation. It's actually boosting innovation. People are using these tools in a new way. So for the people who say like AI is going to replace us and it's going to get rid of everything, it's like it's actually been a big shot in the arm to the tech industry, and there's a boom of new tools and apps constantly coming out every single day. And they'll need to
Yeah.
be maintained, those apps and tools, and um, they'll need training. They'll need, to have a new interface refresh or something. So there's a lot of work being created.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the cool thing about, we talked a little bit about that earlier about what Python looks like as you're getting into it for the first time. Like very approachable. It was your first coding language, I think is what you told me. But maybe
Mhm.
before we started, I think you mentioned to me, hey, this
Mhm.
is Python was my first coding language. And I find that's, a common trend with Python because it is so approachable. The syntax is so great and, just aesthetically pleasing. And I think that's the really cool thing about how Nucamp, just overall cultivated their backend bootcamp. Because let's say you're coming off the full stack, you're doing the complete software engineering bootcamp path, right? You start with web
Mhm.
development fundamentals, full stack. You have great skills right then and there already to go ahead and hit the ground running, start applying, start doing some things, right? But then to
Mhm.
really just like skyrocket yourself, you can jump into backend. But the cool thing where I'm getting at with that, the cool thing about it is you don't have to have a prerequisite to get into this backend bootcamp
Mhm.
because SQL, or not SQL, because Python and SQL, though, are so approachable for going from bad to decent. And then there's the learning curve of going from decent to good, right? We're able to
Mhm.
help you get into that to then further that education to building projects like you just saw, like being able to get to the
Mhm.
point where you can build your own AI model or libraries or different updates to databases, which kind of actually brings me to the next point of what's covered in the backend bootcamp that I'm kind of curious for you about too is SQL as a
Mhm.
whole.
Yeah, that kind of
How
answered Simon's Simon's second question there. I think.
let's
You,
see.
you
I
had,
don't.
I think you
I
just
don't see.
covered it.
Okay, I don't see a. Let's see here. I don't see a second question in here. Um,
Like at the 11-minute mark. Oh,
yeah.
maybe you put it on the screen. I didn't notice, but I think you anyway. You pretty much beautifully just covered it. That you don't have to be at a super high level to enter the backend bootcamp. It's great if you play around with a little basic YouTube Python tutorial or something, just to kind of test your level of interest before you invest money. But you don't have to be high end. And I think most people who start the course are either beginners or they have just finished our full stack course. So they're not like they're industry practitioners, but they either way, you're able to get in, and that's listed at the course page in the prerequisites.
April Long coming in and saying, I love SQL. I'm glad I'm not alone in the world of loving SQL, because it was the first coding language that really clicked with me. I really love getting entangled into a database. And I think a big reason that I liked it, just personally speaking, not just because technically it was easier for me to comprehend for whatever reason, but
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's very future proof too. Anytime you're putting in information like an email address, your first last name. Let's use banking as an example, account, routing number, maybe social security. That's getting stored in a database somehow, which that's never going to go away. In 10 years or so, I mean, I can safely push my chips in towards saying that SQL is going to be around, and because data has never been more important in history before than it is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to go from Python and making these applications of automating things, pulling things with APIs as well, and creating these applications, at least from the full stack bootcamp too, and but also being able to have that stored data and then update it and make additions to it, create, read, update, delete, that infamous acronym CRUD. You'll hear that going around,
Mm-hmm.
CRUD. And so, April Long, thanks for coming in. Hey, just a quick reminder for everyone watching: if y'all have any questions, whether you come from the tech field, whether you are thinking about making the switch, maybe trying to get your toes wet and see if this is even something you want to get into, ask us a question. That's what we're here to do. Zandra is a person who has a ton of experience getting people over the finish line with experience of building projects and getting people's foot in the door with career opportunities. And then I help also shepherd people for that starting point. So you're talking to two people on each end who can really help guide you in the right direction. Let's see here. Sam has said, SQL was a big selling point for me. Been wanting to get into it for a while. Just messed around with some basic Python and Java so far. Yeah, I mean, like if you're only messing around with Python and Java and then you make that switch over to SQL, it feels so much different. But sometimes like it just feels either so right for, our case some, or maybe like some other people don't really get into it. So I'm glad to see that this is something that you love. So
Mm-hmm.
um, is this a full-time or part-time program? Also, do you have a physical campus? Zandra, do you want to take that one?
Oh yeah, so it can be full time if you devote full time hours of study during the week to it. You could totally do that. Most of our students are working and studying at the same time, and the course is designed to be self-paced during the week. So you'll log into our learning dashboard. You get your own login, and you go through recorded lectures that our instructors have made custom content. And then you answer also exercises and quizzes. You participate in forums and discussion questions during the week, all leading up to the weekend where you have a live 4 hour instructor led workshop where you can apply those new skills. So it's not just watching watching videos, and then, trying to answer a bunch of questions. It's a lot more than that. And you're not on your own either, because during the week there's also office hours with your instructor where your instructor will be online to answer questions in a private dedicated chat during the week.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I think one thing you mentioned too on a lot of my phone calls, talking to people. Thank you, LinkedIn user. That's what it says. So I'm just gonna. I don't know. It's funny in my head to think that that might be the name. So one thing that you said that I think is really important to kind of talk about is, even though it is self-paced Monday through Friday,
Mm-hmm.
self-paced also does not mean self-taught, right? So there's a big difference there on that, and I see a lot of times that people get those two things kind of confused with each other, because really we're
Okay.
not there to you know uh, push out material to you and say, hey, good luck, right? I mean, like we're there to work with you, not against you, which is all Nucamp is, and every coding boot camp should be like this. But we're really nothing without our students, and we're really nothing about without helping people get across that finish line. So that education process, whether you want to do full-time or part-time, right? We try and take away all of those major roadblocks for you. Most of the time that falls down to time and money, right? And
Mhm.
so that's kind of what sparked this open house and the discussion for today, is because the back end boot camp, which in particular is my favorite one, is
Mhm.
coming to a close for the early bird cutoff date. So that's going to be ending on Monday. So if that's something that you're thinking about getting into, or you have some particular questions, maybe you want to talk to someone more privately about that, you can also follow this link here. I just posted it in all of our chats, where you can follow that Calendly link. You can schedule some time with either me or another advisor here as well, where we can go more into discussion about what you're trying to get out of the tech industry. Maybe it isn't about back end. Maybe it could be anything else. And so we could talk about that. And there's also some special incentives in those meetings too. So definitely schedule some time with us if you have any questions. But as of right now, for the next like 30 minutes or so, we're here to answer any questions that you guys have for getting started, or what that looks like afterwards too. But kind of going past, like, well, not past SQL, I actually kind of want to talk a little bit about that too, because um, how often do you see people approach you, Zandra, that might want to get into more of a database administration role? I think we talked a little bit about that, how I wanted to get into it. So I want to see if I'm like completely new to that.
Mm. Okay, the database administration, I don't really get those very often. Most of the people that I talked to in the past,
Let's see, it looks like we're,
on oh, we're having a little
yeah,
latency here.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
There it goes. It looks like that.
most mhm. Most of the people that I have talked with that they're not sure about what they want to do, they are usually more broad, more general. Like, hey, I want to get into tech because I want to work remotely, or I want to earn more money. Those kinds of more broad challenges that they're looking
Right.
to address. So it's very rare that I talk to the person who is super laser focused on like databases
You
or
know,
something.
that's
Mhm.
actually so right, because this is a great question that will somewhat tie into that too. I'm new to coding. I have no idea what it's all about. How am I guaranteed that I will be an expert in 16 weeks? Is there a personal tutor or something? Well, yeah, we were just talking a little bit about this. If you're new to coding, it's really good to identify about why you're wanting to get into coding in the first place, right? Most of the time, that funnels down to some type of objective. It could be a job, it could be money, it could be just interest within coding itself. So, I try and advise everybody to find that spark within you to really want to get into something, because that's really what's
Mhm.
going to shoot you to the next level. But with that
I,
said, oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I would just jump in and say to Kunle, if I'm saying your name correctly, nice question. And it's good that you admit, I have no idea what it's about. I'm a blank slate. But nobody can guarantee that you will be an expert in 16 weeks. And maybe I cut you off, Dean, and you were going to say the same thing. But
Oh, no, no,
if
no, you're
if
good.
anybody tells you that we're going to make you an expert in 16 weeks, run away, run far and run fast. We are going to get you ready for an entry level position. That is by no means expertise, right? So, no, you do not get a personal tutor. That would probably be prohibitively expensive. However, you get a dedicated instructor, and you have a group, a cohort, a class that's moving through each section, each project with you together. And it's a nice virtual learning environment that you'll be in for those 16 weeks. So, no, you will not be an expert, but you will, by gosh, be boosted way past beginner and into entry level job readiness.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't have said it better myself. And I would also kind of did the like, excuse me, kind of the popcorn on top of that. I would say, it is what you make of it, right? Like, You still have to put in the work. You still have to put in the dedication to learn these skills. That's
Mhm.
anywhere you go, though. That shouldn't be a scary thing. That should actually excite you about getting into it. And so I think that with backend in particular, this is something we can actually kind of talk about because I'm curious to know your thoughts on this too. I think
Mhm.
it has a higher, like, I guess, return or I guess more of a lucrative future on backend languages than it does with maybe something like front end. But I just think it's because backend ties into so much more about what's emerging right now that
Mm.
learning these skills now is actually going to pay dividends for you in the future for kind of where I personally see the tech industry going, which is going to be more towards AI, machine learning. Data is
Mhm.
really important. SQL deals with that. There's so many things that fall under your umbrella or that umbrella. Let's see here. We're getting some more questions in here. Let's see. Is there some kind of form the cohort has to banter and share? Uh, did I read about a Discord for this? Yeah, we have a Discord community, and
Mhm.
it's actually awesome. We used to use Slack, and then we moved over to Discord. I personally love that because Discord started off as a gaming community platform, and then it's kind of branched into just a community platform in general. So it's all made to be interactive and make people feel really immersed in that. And so, absolutely, you have your different people in your class to reach out to, your instructors. You have several different channels. Xander, you've seen the evolution of our Discord channel and channels and server. Like, you have anything to add on top of that?
For sure. It's definitely a nice and kind community. So you don't have to worry about some of those kind of rough discords where you be like scared to ask questions or like scared to look stupid, quote unquote. The new campers are generally very kind, and we have different channels for different topics. So you'll also have a dedicated course channel for just your instructor and your little class. That's maybe like 15 students, and you'll also have, yes, exactly. You is on fire. You're on fire with the questions. There is a cohort specific space that's your class channel, your cohort channel, and that will be your instructor and your classmates. And then there's a broader set of channels, including a general channel. There's a like a water cooler kind of random channel. There's like jobs channels. So you have lifetime access to this Discord server included in your tuition price. So it's really almost priceless because you can see people posting, "Hey, I got hired," and you can hit them up in the DMs like, "Oh, let me know if your boss is going to be hiring. Here's my resume. What do you think of it?" You can keep in touch with people. You can post your LinkedIn profile. It's really a great, and sometimes underutilized resource for the job networking portion of things.
Yeah, the networking is what I was actually going to mention there. Is like, having lifetime access to that is like you can consistently go back to it, see what everybody's up to, the alumni to be able to connect with more people, maybe in your surrounding area too, which I would highly recommend that you do anyway.
Mhm.
Networking is a huge and vital part when it comes to getting your foot in the door, the tech industry.
Mhm.
I mean, we're going to give you every resource to learn the skills and to learn those hard skills, right? But when it comes to the soft skills, we're also there to help out with that. At the end of the day, though, like networking is makes up a huge chunk of being able to do so. And I think that with the community that's just been growing and growing and growing since 2017, it's just, I mean, it's going to new heights on being able to do that. So,
Mhm.
absolutely, communication's big. It's not like one of those like certificates that you can take where they kind of feed you the information. You don't know who to contact. If you ask a question, you don't know if you're being dumb by asking. You don't really know if someone's going to be rude or mean to you or not. I mean, you can experience that on like Reddit or Stack Overflow all too much, right? I mean, that's not something that we want to do. We're really there to help guide you through the whole program. And so, with that said, we kind of alluded to it earlier about where backend is kind of going in general, right? I'm kind of curious to know your personal I guess perspective on this too, because
I'm
you
like,
help people.
I'm so flattered.
Yeah,
I feel like
no,
I'm
like
being interviewed.
no. Like, I mean, in a way, like I'm just really like I love hearing about the end process for people, because like the
Mm,
beginning, the wonder and the enchantment of learning how to code is just there's nothing like it. I mean, I really love that process, but everybody gets into it because they want to
mm.
get that job. They want to maybe pivot from a career they don't like. They want to learn new skills. They want to innovate with the times. So where do you see backend going in the future? I think we're getting a little lag here. Let's see. You still with us, Sandra? Let's see here. Well, what we can do
Back
is we
end
can
is
just
going.
still. Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
Are we back? Cool. Let's see here. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I think you were.
I,
Mhm.
is this on my end, by the way?
I don't know. I at the beginning of the stream, I had some Docker containers still running in the background, so I shut them off. I don't know. It doesn't seem to help. But yeah, but I can hear you
All
now.
good.
And
All good.
from from where you said like where back end is really pivotal, and it seems like you could jump off to a bunch more places with back end, not just machine learning and Python and how it's kind of blowing up now, but also cybersecurity.
Mhm.
So if you learn a
Yeah.
little bit about cloud operations, cloud deployment, maintenance, and that sort of thing, containerization, that can also, poise you to branch off into cybersecurity if you so choose. So it's totally fine. Like Simusim was saying, can I be a beginner and start with backend? Yes, you can use that as a jumping off point to go to other places. You could totally start off with web dev fundamentals too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on something that is something that's kind of trending in a really, really good way is cloud. Cloud is something that I feel like all the big tech companies are really kind of just sticking their hands in, and that's kind of branching off to be more of a niche thing in itself too. Like, what are your thoughts overall about cloud?
Oh, for sure. It's the AWS is kind of a monster taking over, market share, and a lot of people are kind of clamoring for that in the recruitment space. So it's kind of not so needed just starting off. Usually, I don't think they're going to put you, in charge of their, AWS. But you might have to, if you're on front end, you might have to link some images or something, or some media um, to it. So it's kind of good to know how that works. If you start off your first job in back end, you'll want to know how the buckets work. You'll want to be aware of um, how a little bit how the billing works. So you might want to later on in your first role, maybe after you're comfortable, maybe 6, 10 months or so, think about getting a certification, a basic cloud certification,
Mhm.
and that can only just continue to boost you up. But backend is, I think, we're the only boot camp still. And anyone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong with your research skills, that exposes students in the 16-week space to AWS, Amazon, AWS, Azure, and GCP. So that's super valuable to your resume and to be able to say during the interview, yes, I have deployed to Azure. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
completely agree with you. I think a lot of the job postings that I see right now have cloud like AWS or Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, right, as preferences right now. Some of them are like some certificates that you can get through those
Mm.
cloud services. If those are required, you kind of know what job you're going for in the first place, right? But that working knowledge of how
Mhm.
these operate, being a preference, really strong to
Mhm.
have on a resume. I feel like because
Mm.
resumes are typically scanned by an AI, right? They're looking for keywords, and that optimization is really really important. Is that like something that they do still to this day, Zandra?
Mhm. Yes, unfortunately, I discovered in my time becoming an advisor and kind of doing a lot of career coaching by accident and then becoming a career coach, I discovered that a lot of companies use those ATS and screening softwares, applicant tracking system softwares, to kind of cover their butts in terms of compliance. So, like, let's say a candidate gets declined for whatever reason and they decide to sue, or if someone gets fired or laid off and they decide to get litigious up in there, the HR can just go in this easy software and press report and print out all the stuff they have on
Wow.
this employee from the candidacy interview process and say, hey, look, we dotted our I's and crossed our T's. We have da 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 da. Here's how they were screened by a machine. It wasn't nothing on our side. So there's a lot of that compliance stuff that's driving that, unfortunately. So I don't think that's ever going away. But we try to help students to circumvent that. If you can get a personal referral from a friend, yes, your information will be entered into the ATS and it'll be scanned, but a human will be looking out for you. If you can get a recommendation, if you can get an informational interview, if you can meet someone for coffee, or if you can, kind of like we said, slide into the DMs with someone, then you can get around a lot of that. Hey, my application is just automatically getting rejected within 5 minutes by the ATS because you're sending it to a human being. So we do coaching and we have a whole career course included in the back end tuition that covers a lot of those tactics that you could use.
Yeah, and the best way to get there is having those hard skills ready to go. And the best way to get those hard skills is by building projects and actually going through a structured learning environment, which once
Mm.
again, that's kind of the theme of today, which is
Mhm.
to really let you guys know that, hey, this back end boot camp, which, if you can't tell, it's my personal favorite. Zandra has a liking to it too. That early bird discount ends on Monday for this, and if you guys are interested in learning even more about it, or wanting to get, I guess, more personalized questions answered from either me or some other advisors here, follow that
Mhm.
Calendly link that I just posted.
Mhm.
Within that, you can talk to either me. Adriana is our other advisor here that would be more than happy to talk about that. We have some special incentives on those meetings too. So feel free
Mhm.
to schedule that time out throughout this weekend. I know we'll both be readily available. I like working on the weekends. It's actually my favorite part of doing this job is talking to you guys. I mean, really, I know that sounds really
Mhm.
corny and cliche, but
I'm gonna call you the weekend from now on.
okay, yeah, okay, I'll take it. I don't know if I can live up to it, but I'll take it. Yeah, it's
One thing I
it's
forgot to mention, by the way, the other question from Kunle, um, Adeni, he was saying, is there a personal tutor? I completely forgot to mention Astro, and also Ludo's wonderful project, the Debugginator. You do kind of have what could be construed as a personal tutor if you look at it that way, because Astro is an AI that will assist you on certain lesson pages in our courses. And you can ask, like, hey, explain this concept like I'm five, or, um, I didn't quite get what they were saying in the video. Can you give me an analogy to explain this? What is pass by reference? I don't really understand what that means. Can you explain it to me like I'm 10 years old or something?
there's
So
a lot
it was
of
nice.
power. Yeah, there's a lot of power in being able to ask an AI to explain something like you're 10 or 11 years old. I mean, that's unironically what I do a lot of the times with Chat
Mhm.
GPT, and it explains
Mhm.
it in a way that is really, I guess, digestible, right? So it's there to be used as a tool, right? And AI is going to remain to stay like that for a while. Let's
Mhm.
see. Another great question from some. Uh, what are your feelings about Sunday sessions? Question mark. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Love that.
Mhm.
I love that. And
Mhm.
yeah, so we have Saturday or Sunday workshops. You can choose different time
Mhm.
slots. Those are available. They're 4-hour blocks, so it's really about fitting that into what schedule works out best for you and what's available for that. We used to only have them on Saturday, but
Mhm.
Sunday is a great day that's open for a lot of people. So we have Saturday or Sunday available now. So we're trying to take away all the major roadblocks. I mean, that was kind of the mission when Nucamp was started, right? To be the most accessible
Yes.
boot camp, right? And
100%.
you know, that
Mhm.
means all days throughout the week too. So we're really there to work with you, not against you in that
Mhm.
process. And so, um, but yeah, with that said, I kind of want to showcase one more project in here.
I was
The
just gonna ask you, which other project did you like? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
let me go through them and see because you know we don't have a ton of time. We got about 15 minutes. It's a good amount of time. Let's see here.
What?
Let's see. Let me share my screen real fast. Before that, Hyperfocus has a question. Sandra, do you mind answering
Mhm.
that question while I'm pulling this
Hyper
up?
focus. I love that tag, that title, by the way. Can you switch weekend sessions times each week, or do you have to choose a particular day and stick with that? It's kind of like, when you were in high school and there was like a history class for this section, and then that same teacher would move to another classroom and teach the history class. It's kind of like if you change the time, you would be in a completely different class, or you would have a completely different instructor. So we can't have you hopping between courses each week, unfortunately. So you have one course and one instructor that you're with, that you do have to stick with. But if you have something come up, an emergency, if you have a planned travel and that you can't get out of, we can work with you. So it's not to say it's a deal breaker if you're going to miss one of your weekend sessions, but that's an excellent question to think ahead about. When you have a class that you're going to miss and you know about it, like let's say you have some plane tickets that you can't refund or something, you can let your instructor know firstly, hey, I'm going to miss next weekend. So that way you can start your project for that weekend a little bit early. Try to kind of front load any questions that you might have, get your assistance in the chat so that you can submit your project on time. You don't lose any points. You can still have it graded on time. And if it's an emergency, you can also work with your instructor, submit your homework late. And, if you need to, God forbid, some kind of emergency, you can reschedule your class. So you can kind of take a pause. Not a pause is not how you say it, but you can reschedule your start date to join a course that's behind you and kind of get a little do over for that section of the boot camp. So it's really nice.
Hyperfocus. I actually really love that question, and you said that totally makes sense. Just planning on the next 22 weeks. So, have you already signed up with us? It's awesome to hear. If you haven't, then definitely schedule a little time with one of our advisors right here. Talk to them. They got something for you in case that you haven't registered yet. So, but
Mhm.
yeah, let me pull up this example here real quick for one of our students. I kind of picked this one because I love the I love what he has posted. Hyperfocus, that's awesome. I'm glad you're onboarded. It ain't much, but it's honest work. And the context behind this picture is the fact that he's saying that, hey, this is a back end project. This is a back end portfolio thing that I put on my resume and I'm showing to people. It ain't much, but it's honest work, meaning that he knows that the UI doesn't look that great because it's a backend project. It's not supposed to look amazing, right? And I'm gonna mute this just because I don't know how the audio is gonna come through on the live stream. But this is something that he's created for adding different clients in. So he's just adding test across the board, creating a new customer accordingly. One of the biggest and most important things that come to these projects is actually updating them in real time too. So he's changing the the first name as well. That showcase. The reason that's really important in the tech standpoint, right, for going to different companies and employers is that you don't want to have something only look good and 1 plus 1 equals 5. That wouldn't make sense. Everything audio seemed fine on the last one. Great. I'll turn it up then. So yeah, now he's going to pull up a lot of coding. It may make sense to a lot of people, may not. So I'm just going to show the end result of what this looks like real fast. So just a real solution-based project right here that honestly I think shows a lot of skill to an employer being able to say, hey, this is something I'm providing to you guys by being able to store into a database, update clients in real time, pulling up contracts, invoices, transactions too, making sure that those numbers work properly. Because
Mhm.
anytime you're dealing with providing a service to a client, like I mentioned, if you're doing banking, you don't want, $100 deposited to only be 60. Everybody would flip out about that, right? So I definitely know I would be. And so, yeah, not hearing the video this time. Okay, well, that is because in the screen share, there's a little button that I have to press for it, and I did not hit that button some. So thank you for reminding me. I will do that next time. But
But the good thing is you can go to nucamp.co and click on job outcomes and graduates projects, and you can watch that very video on your device. So, um, yeah, apologies about the video, about the audio there, but you could totally peep that for yourself and watch the entire thing. I didn't think it was that bad, and I appreciated the meme too. That was very cute. I thought the rudimentary UI looked pretty decent, and so that's a legit CRUD app right there that you can show to a potential employer
and you
to
can see there's
show
no
you.
shortage. There's no
Mhm.
shortages of projects to look at, huh? I mean, they're all tailored for that specific boot camp. So this one says front end, for instance, but the topic of today is really talking about the back end boot camp, right? So really
Mhm.
being able to see examples of that. There's no prerequisite when it comes to the back end boot camp. You can start completely from scratch. We're there to help you go from zero to hero, right? There is like some computer literacy knowledge, like knowing the difference between what a tablet and a desktop is. That's
Mhm.
there's definitely a foundation that you need to have there at least, or knowing how certain keys on a keyboard work. But if you have those basic skills, then you're able to learn how to code. Python and SQL are really great about that because you can go from bad to decent very quickly on those and build some real life, real world projects that you can showcase to employers that will help you get your foot in the door. Us being a project based boot camp, that's what we're here to do, right? So we don't want to just throw material at you, say, good luck, memorize this, and then get you out of here. We're not just a simple certification type boot camp where you just learn material and say good luck in the real world. We're there to help you get across the finish line. More importantly, Zandra is here to help you get across the finish line too. She's a rock star at that. So,
Oh my
um,
goodness. Well, one of the great things that I like the most about Nucamp, not just the affordability and the flexibility, which are the two biggest things I think, but also the career services like being able to come back to the Discord, even if you were in Slack years ago, you can still come back. And I've seen students come back as alumni and say, "Hey, I'm looking for my second or third job now, and I wanted to just come back in the community." Or I'm refreshing myself on the course material and I had a question. And you have that lifetime access to the course content as well, even when, you know, React hooks got added in or Bootstrap 4 changed to Bootstrap 5, you could still come back to your course a year later if you need to refresh and update your skills a little bit. In your even in your job, you can totally still have access to the course that you paid for. So that's super awesome. One
well,
of the
tech
big
moves fast, right? Like,
It
and
does.
keeping up with that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Mhm.
off. You were about to
Oh
say something.
no, that's true. That's totally what I was getting at. And a big part of it is knowing that you have to build the projects because you can't just say on your resume, "Hey, I was a waitress or a truck driver or a teacher, and now I'm a developer." You can't just claim that. You have to show it with your projects. You have to actually build something and show people your skills. So once you do that, that's one little marathon. The next marathon is the job hunt after that. So we have a job hunting boot camp if you'd like to join that. That is 4 weeks of kind of intense job hunting preparation under the guidance of a coach with live sessions, workshops where you can kind of practice your interview stance and polish up your resume and that kind of thing. But we also have that support in a job or career course that's built into the course dashboard, the learning dashboard for graduates. So you can log in and go through at your own pace, not necessarily in a guided coaching 4-week course, but at your own pace, you can go through that same curriculum content and learn how to do networking, learn how to optimize your resume, your LinkedIn, and those LEAP code practice for the job hunt, which is your next marathon after you complete the boot camp. So it's not a small thing. It does take work. If everybody could do it, if it was easy, everybody would just magically be a developer. But we are there to support you in that. You're not on your own.
I think one of the best ways to be able to completely pivot careers, because a lot of people get worried about that, right? They're like, for instance, like you said, a truck driver. I've talked to a ton of truck drivers before. They say, how do I get into tech if I've only been driving trucks for 10 years? Like, why would anybody hire me over someone who has experience or maybe is more fresh than me? This is how you do it, because I didn't come from a tech background either. I actually worked regular retail jobs. Yeah, I worked regular retail jobs. I actually didn't even get traditional education just to give people more hope. I got my GED, and then I worked at a grocery store for a while in my adolescence into my early adulthood, and then I wanted to get into tech too. And so I went through a coding boot camp, and then I made a database in SQL because I love SQL, right? And kind of made something where I can update the inventory in real time, very similar to a lot of these projects that you see on the website. But I had that tailored towards a grocery mindset. I worked at a grocery store called Publix. If you're in the South, you know what Publix is.
I've heard of Publix.
Hey, listen, the best grocery store. But I made a whole application for updating inventory. And so if anybody ever asked me, hey, it says you worked at Publix for 2 years, 3 years, or something like that, and you're trying to get this tech job, tell me a little bit about that experience. I would just take that and deflect right onto the project that I built based off my experience that I had with Publix, because that's what I made my tech project based out of. I wanted to make it make sense for them about how serious I was. And so you can take that right there. Think about what doesn't use technology in tech right now. You won't find anything. You hardly will find anything that doesn't use tech in some type of way. So regardless of your background, regardless of your education too, you can do it. I've done it. So I did not start off. I'm not that super smart either. So I know that you guys can do it if you're watching it. And if you're looking on how to do that in a really structured environment where you're wanting to build projects, you're wanting to get that networking opportunity, you're wanting to get that help from Zandra, getting that foot in the door, right? That's all that we've talked about today is the back-end bootcamp, right? I genuinely think I love all the boot camps. I really do. Ludo, if you're watching this, I love all the boot camps, right? But I do think that the back-end boot camps.
You have a favorite. You're not supposed to have a favorite child.
I know. But hey, listen, I just see a certain trajectory for where tech is going, and it really kind of hits maybe more personal to me. Now, granted, at the end of the day, what trumps all is do whatever you like and whatever you're passionate about, and you're going to find success with that. That's what I truly believe at the end of the day. But I do also believe that Python, SQL, DevOps, all the cloud services, how that possibly ties into loosely tying into cybersecurity, knowing how those databases work. If you want to, you don't have to confine yourself or put yourself in a box for backend, I feel like. And so if you're wanting to go from zero to hero, that's how you do it. And if you're wanting to hear even more about that, boom, I'm going to post it again, that Calendly link, right? Schedule some time with me, schedule some time with one of our advisors. Let's talk about it. I want to hear how you're wanting to get into tech. Genuinely, it is my favorite part of my day is hearing about what you're trying to do to pivot, what you're trying to do to straighten out your life. And so Yeah,
Oh,
just
we just had another aftershock here.
oh,
I
no
don't think
way.
my microphone picked that up, but that was kind of freaky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On that
Um,
note,
yeah, I was really full sending it. I mean, if you guys can't tell, I'm really passionate about helping people at the starting point, shepherding them in the right direction, really kind of helping you identify your goals within that. And Zandra's expertise is once you do have that in line, furthering that across the finish line. That's what we're here to do. So feel free to contact us. That Calendly link is also a special incentive for those who haven't signed up yet. That ends on Monday. So give me a ring, schedule some time. I got something for you. But Zandra, thank you so much for joining me on my yapping session. So no, like
thanks for
I'm just
having me. I
yeah.
really appreciate it. And thanks for running the stream. That takes all the pressure off. But you did
Hey,
a really good job. And thank you,
appreciate it.
everyone, for joining. Hyperfocus. See you soon in the Discord. And hopefully, you too, Submissive, join us very soon.
And
Like,
hyperfocus, if you're still in the chat, thank you for the next 22 weeks. You're gonna have a great time.
mhm. All right.
All right,
Thanks.
guys. Well, we'll see y'all around. Take it easy. Thanks,
See you,
Sandra.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Peace.